Simply put, without transmission, there is no wind industry.
The Midwest, and the region served by the Midwest Independent Transmission System Operator, or MISO, enjoys some of the greatest potential for wind development in the United States. The problem inherent with this wind potential is that wind is typically located in the least populated areas of the region, while the densely populated areas consume large amounts of electricity. Development and expansion of the existing electricity transmission infrastructure will encourage growth of wind energy in the Midwest and throughout the country as a whole.
We have a sparse transmission grid where the very best wind is in the Dakotas, southwest Minnesota.
This contrast is illustrated by comparing the purple areas with high wind potential on the left with the lighted areas of high consumption on the right. Not only is expanded transmission needed to support new wind installation, it could improve access to the large amounts of wind energy already installed. As one engineer from Dairyland Power Cooperative observed when speaking to Professor Wallenberg,
he said a lot of their coal plants were backed way down. They turned off some of them for most of the day because they had enough wind across the whole system to supply a very large part of the load, 7,000 megawatts.
This wind offset of 7,000 megawatts represented enough electricity to power 2,300,000 window air conditioners and provided a reduction of 6,700 tons of carbon dioxide for every hour the coal plants could be fired down. While improved transmission infrastructure could increase the frequency of these successful wind offsets, not all interested parties support transmission expansion.
Needless to say that heavy transmission is big, it's very visible, high voltage, lots of opposition from people. You will always hear the argument that transmission lines cause cancer. You go on the internet, you'll find a few internet sites that'll claim that, but the truth is that studies have been done, very, very exhaustive studies in the 1990s to disprove that.
In addition to citizen opposition, outdated financing and regulatory models have hindered the growth and improvement of the transmission infrastructure. CapEx 2020 represents a successful regional transmission project that overcame these barriers. CapEx 2020 was meant, among other things, to bring wind from low population western areas to major population bases throughout the Midwest.
CapEx 2020 is a little bit of background on that. It's a group of 11 utilities in Minnesota, Wisconsin, and North and South Dakota that joined forces to build 700 miles of new transmission lines. The Brookings County to Hampton project is the one that's designed to connect into the central part of the Buffalo Ridge and really increase access to wind energy as well as meeting some of those community service and regional reliability needs.
The success of CapEx 2020 informs policy strategies to expand the use of wind and the reach of transmission infrastructure in the Midwest and throughout the United States. First, a financing model like the one used by CapEx 2020 effectively spreads the cost of expanded transmission among benefiting utilities. In this model, utilities contributed to the transmission expansion through a MISO-implemented tariff, which required a payment based on their load in the system. In addition to the financing model, coordinating interested stakeholders, including utilities, landowners, and multiple state regulators, was a crucial step in the CapEx 2020 process. Going forward, coordination will remain an integral part of the process. Engagement of policymakers and landowners will enable future projects to incorporate the needs of the various stakeholders involved and ensure the long-term viability of the project. Finally, while many current policies are encouraging the development of wind resources in the Midwest, due to the lengthy process of siting, financing, and building transmission infrastructure, maintaining consistency in those policies will be a key part of subsequent successful projects. This consistency will include not only the continuation of policies to encourage renewable energy installation, like renewable portfolio standards, but promulgation of regulation to allow for a predictable siting process for utilities and stakeholders.
Transmission, as I like to say, has really become the glass ceiling for wind development. Until we get some significant transmission in the pipeline and constructed, we're just going to see a limited amount of wind that can still continue to be developed in the Midwest.